So you're here at the Wild Goose, first time.
Yes.
Tell me what you're doing here.
Well, I'm going to be playing at the main stage about 9:20. Normally, over the past several years, I've been doing most of my shows solo, but this go around, I've got a trio that'll be playing with me, keyboards and drums. So yeah, we'll be doing that later tonight, and really looking forward to it. I've heard a lot about this festival. I've heard about it years ago, and actually ended up meeting Kirsty in Ann Arbor, Michigan, when I was opening for Amy Ray.
Yeah.
And
Indigo Girls.
Yeah. This was God, what year is it? 2019. November of last year. I don't even. Yeah.
Right.
I do so much traveling now. It's hard to remember what day it is, let alone the year. But anyway, yeah, the end of last year. And I just thought that was kind of the most random place to meet someone from the Wild Goose Festival, but yeah, it was great. So then ever since then, Kirsty wanted to try to work something out where I can come over here, because I'm just an hour away. So at least when I'm not traveling, but yeah, because I live over Johnson City. So yeah. And
you've been doing the solo thing, but you've also been doing more collaboration of late as well, right? With
Rhiannon Giddens reached out to myself and Allison Russell and Layla McCullough, and we got together in January 2018 and went down to Lafayette, Louisiana, to Dirk Powell's studio out on the bayou, on the bayou country. And yeah, we recorded songs of our native daughters.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was an amazing experience.
Yeah. What do you think? For you, what's the difference between doing the solo thing and doing the band thing or the collaborative thing?
Well, I guess one of the biggest things with the solo is, it was, for me, performing solo was a challenge to make my songs and my music as interesting as I possibly could just using a guitar. Right. I kind of know how it is, where I've gone to certain places and seen a singer-songwriter, and their songs are great, but your songwriting, your song arrangements can only get as interesting as your guitar playing, which is why people usually bring bands. And for me, I wanted to be able to still keep people's attention and make things interesting with guitar playing. And I learned fingerstyle guitar, took about a year lessons in classical guitar after my 4th year of teaching myself how to play with DVDs and stuff like that. But then I took my first formal class in high school, and then I started learning old time guitar picking and strumming and all of that. So now with all of those, in my toolbox, I was able to, find different ways to make my songs as dynamic as possible. And so with that, when I play with a band, a lot of those parts are already there, and sometimes we can even add to what's there. So yeah, it's more of a really nice challenge for me to do solo stuff, because I can create those different arrangements,
those textures,
textures on my own, and then so that's kind of the big difference. Also, traveling, I'm a bit of an introvert, so long drives by myself listening to music is where a lot of my ideas kind of come from. So there's that too. But so
it's a forced extroversion of being in a band, on the road, and
But what's interesting with playing with the band is sometimes I forget that I've got other people with ideas that can help if I'm stuck, and that idea of kind of letting go a little bit of what you've held on to so tightly and listening to other people's ideas and incorporating that, and then you create something that's a little bit bigger than yourself, and that's a really satisfying feeling too. So
take that image, if you would, and let's play with it a little bit in real life. Isn't the right word. It's not like music isn't real life, but in daily interactions, to recognize who you are. You are an introvert, and that is who you are, and that's good. And you're recognizing the creative expanse that can happen in these collaborative experiences, right?
Yes.
So how can we take, or how do you take that kind of wisdom into everyday life and interacting with people? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, it's interesting because with introversion, it's different from shyness. I used to be, but I used to be shy along with the introversion. So at very certain times in my life, I actually was could be a little too reclusive.
Yeah.
But moving forward and working through that shyness, you know, and having like the support of like my dad and you know, people that I played music with at Amythyst State University, and like kind of slowly starting to build that confidence in myself. Now, you know, the way that I look at it is, you know, my introverted side, like I have that time, I create time for myself to recharge, because if I don't, then it's hard to, it's almost like it's like I'm a cell phone battery and I'm at 100%, and throughout the day, I lose my charge. And it doesn't matter how much I would love to like be part of something. You know, if my battery's dead, it's dead, and there's kind of nothing I can do about it until I can go recharge. So it's finding that balance of listening to my body, knowing when I need to recharge, and being aware of that. And then path forward, when I recharge and then I go back into the world of ideas and people, then what I was able to think of and come up with, the ideas that I'm able to come up with in my recharge time, I can very excitedly express like, hey, this is what I've been working on, this is, you know, this is what I've been thinking about. And so yeah, it's really just been about dividing up that time to where I take care of myself, because if I don't, then I'm really no good to anybody else if I'm drained and tired all the time. And it's taken me some years to figure that out. It's not been easy to to figure that out, because you say yes to everything. I did a period of time where I said yes to everything, and then it didn't really bode well for my mental health at all. So I've had to like regroup and figure that out. So
was that, I'm curious about that season, was that something you did intentionally, or was that something you just kind of fell into, of saying yes to everything?
Yeah, well, you fall into it, really. I mean, at least that's how I experienced it. You know, there was a time when I decided I was going to go to grad school. I was going to continue to play with my school old-time string band, continue to play solo shows. I also was at first I was contracted through the Birthday Country Music Museum to help curate, and then when school semester started, I decided to take an internship there, and I had a graduate assistantship. So it was just it's one of those things where you're like, oh, this is such a great opportunity, yeah, I'll do it. Then like a couple weeks later, yeah, I'll do that. Then a couple weeks later, yeah, I have space in my calendar. And then you realize I didn't leave any time for me to eat or sleep, or
you didn't bring a cord for your cell phone.
Read a book, like nothing. I didn't leave any time for myself to recharge, and that's when that was a hard lesson to learn that year. It was really tough, but but then that's when you learn. Okay, now it's great when opportunities come your way, but then learning how to say no is an art in and of itself, and knowing what project is gonna make the most sense for you at that time. And it's kind of like, it's a constant sort of like, it's like playing Tetris and like figuring out which shape is gonna go where at what time, and which one do I need to toss out, you know? So, because it's hard, you know, you want to be able to like be part of all these different things that people are excited about you being in, and you don't want to let anybody down. But if you say yes to everything, you end up letting people down because you can't be fully present.
Your body's not going to make it.
Right, exactly.
You end up saying no after you said yes.
Yeah.
What are you, so at your first Wild Goose, you've heard about it from afar, you've researched it. What are you hoping that Wild Goose will give to you as an artist?
Well, I think for me, you know, as I've traveled more and more with music, being a person of color, being gender nonconforming, and being gay, and when you read things and you don't travel as much, you kind of get a picture in your head. There are certain places that I can never go, and like someday I should move up north because that's where all the open-minded, free-thinking people are. And as time's gone on, I've started to realize, you know what? There are amazing pockets of, and what really kind of opened my mind to that is there's a poet named Jeff Mann who teaches at Virginia Tech, and coming across, when I was actually studying at ETSU, I came across his across his poetry where he directly talks about being like this, you know, big burly white guy with a beard and a hairy chest and like really masculine, but then like and loving his home where he's from, Huntington, West Virginia, but then also realizing that he's gay, and then like having to, and he moved up north. He moved to, I think it was DC or somewhere up north, and then all the gay people that were there made fun of the way he talked and his flannel.
Right.
So it's like that in-betweenness of finding your place. And so after reading that book, and then the more I started traveling, I started realizing there are these nice little pockets of like open-minded, free-thinking people in the South and in Appalachia. So being in a place like this, like, you know, we just passed by a shop where we usually don't, when me and my dad travel, we usually don't stop at little small business owned places out in the middle of nowhere. We don't usually stop there. But it said espresso on the outside of it, and there were plants everywhere, and I'm like, maybe we could stop here. And I got a cold brew coffee. Like it's little things like that throughout the South where I'm like, okay, I could still live in the South because I do love living here. I grew up in East Tennessee and the Appalachians all my life, and so festivals like this and little spots like this that you find all over the place where you can see like a rainbow flag and know that, hey, I can like, I don't have to, you know, I can like be myself. You know, places like this are really important, and I think it's also really important to note is that, like, I also think it's important that it's known that there are people of faith that aren't bigots, because I think some people also immediately assume that if you say someone's Christian, then some people, especially, you know, people that are, you know, people that believe in equality, you know, you see a lot of stuff on the news and it seems like it's leaning towards one way, but there's people of all walks of life that believe in equality. And so I think it's also, I think that's great that this festival's here, because there's Christian LGBT people that also need to still feel like, hey, I'm okay, I can be a Christian and also be gay, you know. So so yeah, I think this is great.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Cool.